Amazing. How are you doing, ladies and gents, boys and gals? And welcome back to another Guns into a brought to you by Ah. All right. Ooh. Oh boy.
Okay, and yet there's a high pitch laugh. I appreciate the high pitch laugh. Anyway, I appreciate your not failing to give me an answer. Right, there are few, if any, news organizations that allow their in-house media reporter to do as much coverage of their own shop as Fred Hyatt and Marty Baron allowed me to do. And I'll cite you a few examples.
Then you just declined to do it? Is that what you're saying? They allow you, but you out of cowardice refuse to? Like, what are you saying?
I did a story about, I don't know how many months ago, about the failure of the Washington Post to get diverse the professionals in the higher ranks of the paper. I also broke the story.
But you're not answering my question. These are real stories. They're not about diversity in your newsroom. And you didn't interview the reporters who wrote the story. And then you end with this. The missteps mar an otherwise spectacular run for the Post. Now, when you write something that brown-nosy, do you feel guilt? No, you feel like I'm doing my job as a hard-hitting media reporter? A spectacular run of my own publication, my own employers?
Finish the...
Okay, here we go.
A lot of people have reached out to me asking me if the threats from the state government in Virginia, number one, can they happen?
Right.
And number two, do they have any real teeth?
Right.
Let me lay it out the best way I know how. I'm going to lay out kind of a timeline of what's happening and what I know from a common sense and a little bit of research that I have done. But let's keep this in mind, and I want to make sure I stress this, that I am in no way an attorney. I don't want to be an attorney. I've never taken any classes to be an attorney, no law classes whatsoever. But what I'm telling you is a mixture of common sense, common knowledge, and look, again, a little bit of research that I've done. And a couple of attorneys I've actually found some questions off of that have really helped me out as well.
At least
let me lay it out as far as the timeline. The Democrats in Virginia gained legislative control over the entire state, as well as the governor's mansion for the first time in decades. So what this typically does in many cases is the back and forth that has taken place for so many years finally comes to an end. The party that is taking over wants to change as much as they can. Things that they may not have even brought up before because they knew they couldn't pass them. Now it emboldens them, so they want to bring these things up. Gun control is one of the main things that everybody wants to put a feather in their cap on the Democrat anti-gun side. What they've done is they pretty much threatened that now that we have control, we're going to do whatever we want. Who cares what the Constitution says? Because they clearly are not listening or reading or paying attention to what the wording of the federal U.S. Constitution is. About 8 gun control laws that they are threatening to ram down everybody's throat in the state of Virginia. These are very infringing gun laws. These are, of course, red flag gun laws that eliminate due process and will confiscate people's guns without any due process or case whatsoever. Case on a whim. It's outlawing AR-15s. It's actually outlawing not just AR-15s, but what they, again, the left, associate as a assault weapon.
Right.
And what they're calling an assault weapon under their definition, which is, this is one of the newer definitions that I've actually seen by the anti-Constitution movement. But they're actually calling any gun that can receive a standard capacity magazine, one that holds more than 10 rounds.
Really?
10 rounds is a low capacity magazine. That's a normal magazine. Normal one is 30.
Right.
In terms of an AR-15. They're saying that any semi-automatic gun that can hold more than 10 rounds in a magazine is actually illegal. Now,
and that's even your clock.
To follow a law in the state, say, okay, well, I bought a magazine that only holds 10 rounds. Doesn't matter. If your gun is capable of accepting a magazine that will hold
more. Right.
You can actually have your gun confiscated, and you are a felon, and you go to jail under these new guidelines and laws that these pass. Now, I want to remind you guys real quick, because they come up again in the video later, but let's not forget that Northam is the governor that back in his college days has a picture right next to him, with him in the picture. There are two guys, and I'll show you the picture here. One guy is in blackface, the other guy is in a Klan outfit, Ku Klux Klan outfit. Northam and his school saw no harm in putting two guys, one in blackface, one in a Klan outfit, in their college yearbook in the 80s. This was not in 1950. This was in the 80s. And they still saw no harm in it. So let's remember that Northam is one of these guys. You can't tell by looking at the picture which one of them he is. He is one of them. And he originally acknowledged.
I'm about to say.
Backtrack that.
That was Hillary.
So he said, neither one of them. Me.
I was told that was Hillary.
But it was, because he slipped up and he actually admitted before he retracted that. So let's remember, that's what kind of guy we're dealing with here.
Right.
We're not dealing with an upstanding person. We're dealing with a full-blown racist.
A tyrant.
And I've got some other adjectives that I could add to that, but I'm not going to. After the governor launched his series of threats saying that he's going to ram all this gun control down the citizens of Virginia's throats. So far, to date, as of this filming, 75 counties, including 75 sheriffs in those counties. I think there's 90 counties, something like that, 85 or 90. 75 of those already have said, we're not going to enforce these infringing state laws that Northam and his friends try to ram down the citizens of Virginia's throats. These sheriffs, these are the top law enforcement people in the state. Of every state out there, it's the sheriff. And the sheriffs have said, I'm not enforcing that. Now, after the counties and the sheriffs said that they were not going to enforce these laws, Northam had to backtrack a little bit. He definitely crawfished on this one, because he realized that, okay, I'm a coward. I can't enforce these laws. I need my sheriffs to do this. And now the sheriffs have just refused to enforce my unconstitutional law. So he backtracked. And this is how some of these anti-gun people do. They're pros at dividing people. You know what he said? Tell you what, guys, instead of outlawing all AR-15s, I'll grandfather them. So I'll let all of you out there have yours if you agree with me that we need to outlaw them for everybody else from here on out. How awesome is that?
Grandfather Claus.
How much of a jerk is that? This guy is saying, okay, I realize that
we already got too much of them.
So I'll tell you what I'll do.
I'll tell you what.
I will bribe you and let you have yours and make you a horrible person. I will let you turn on your brother, turn on your neighbor.
Turn on everybody else who don't got one.
Sorry, dude. I got mine.
I got mine, but you can't have yours. Right.
That's not very constitutional.
That's why we was buying them out in the first place.
Brave of a governor to make some kind of concession like that, because all that does is turn brother against brother, neighbor against neighbor. But the fine people of Virginia were not buying it anyway. They were not going to turn on their brothers and their sisters and their neighbors. So one of their state reps ran his mouth and popped off a little bit, saying that, well, maybe Northam just needs to nationalize the National Guard. Hold on, big fella.
So you're going to use the National Guard.
See, this is like a janitor who can't clean a toilet. Doesn't know the rules.
Right, you don't know the law.
Meaning the governor cannot nationalize the National Guard. You can activate the National Guard. You can tell the National Guard to mobilize and go do things, but you cannot nationalize.
Right.
Words mean things. Activating the National Guard and nationalizing the National Guard are not the same things.
Right.
Now, you know who can nationalize the National Guard?
The president.
President Trump.
That's it. And he won't do it.
He can't nationalize the Virginia National Guard, but Donald Trump can. So what could happen, in theory, Northam could try to mobilize the National Guard and have them go stand in front of stores or whatever, in places to try to intimidate people.
Right.
Could happen. Donald Trump, once those people get activated, could say, okay, fine, Northam, now I'm nationalizing them. And they could turn around and face the opposite direction and now protect these people from letting the state infringe against them and their Second Amendment right.
Right.
It is a federally constitutional law that they're trying to infringe upon. This could blow up on Northam altogether. He could have the same troops that he mobilizes, spin around, do a 180-degree turn, and go right back at them and say, we're not doing anything, and now we're protecting these people. One thing that we do need to point out is that the Fourth Amendment also applies. Let's say Trump didn't do this. Let's say Trump did not nationalize the troops, and Northam tries to make these troops go out, he activates them and tries to get them to go out and somehow confiscate AR-15s. Let's just use AR-15s as an example. That can't happen. Not only now are you, and the Supreme Court has ruled on this, AR-15s are commonly used, so they are constitutional. This is a Supreme Court precedent that's already been struck. So they would be going against the Constitution and the Supreme Court by going after these AR-15s. But let's say they do. Now these people, Northam, the state, and the National Guard, would now be violating the Second Amendment by trying to violate people's Second Amendment rights, but also the Fourth Amendment, which protects the average law-abiding citizen from unlawful search and seizure. So their illegal search and seizures would be unconstitutional against the Second Amendment and the Fourth Amendment, not to mention all the other amendments out there where you have to pay a citizen back for something that you take from them. There's a slew of amendments that would have to be repealed or violated, in order for these people to do what they're actually threatening to do. Guys, this is my feeling about laws, especially Second Amendment laws, but any law that pertains to the Constitution. If anyone, I don't care which party you're speaking of, Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, Independent, if anybody, if any person, if any party, if anyone can abuse these laws and make it hard on somebody else who's not doing anything wrong and who's not doing anything unconstitutional, that is not a just law. And that law does not need to go into effect. I don't care if it's a law that you could abuse or I could abuse, a Democrat could abuse or a Republican could abuse. Even if a Republican or conservative, because I consider myself conservative, not Republican, if a conservative can still twist the law and abuse it to hurt somebody, I don't want that law passed. Because we know that powers exchange. And at some point, that person that you're rah-rahing about because he's abusing a law against your enemy, at some point your enemy will be sitting in that chair and they will be using that law to infringe on you.
Oh man. Oh man. Oh man.
Why red flag laws are a total bastardization of our due process rights.
Damn, and this is an ad.
If you want to have someone declared ineligible to carry or purchase a firearm, we have many legal pathways for that to take place. First off, you can have a civil commitment. You can have someone adjudicated mentally unfit. You can take out a restraining order against an individual. There are a number of ways to do so while still respecting the cornerstone of our republic, which is our due process rights. And you don't have to diminish those by passing red flag laws, because that's what red flag laws are. And to date, I have yet to see a red flag law proposal that actually does respect due process. Furthermore, there's no check and balance. It's very difficult and very expensive to clear one's name and clear one's record and get your
Right.
As many of you know that Governor Northam of Virginia, along with Parliament, the House of Commons, the democratically controlled House and Senate that are coming up January 2020, are getting ready to pass some legislation that's some of the strongest gun control measures in the country. This is something that actually could entail confiscation of sporting style type rifles and other firearms that are over a certain magazine limit. They're actually calling for British regular troops, even possibly the National Guard and definitely state police, to go to individual homes and confiscate firearms that are legally owned.
He's too smart. He's too smart. He's too smart. Amazing. American. And hello, somebody. Whoever you are out there. Amazing.
Heard around the world by everybody and their mother. The Jesse Lee Peterson Radio Show. Uniting the races with truth instead of dividing them with lies. We also rebuilded the family by rebuilding the man. I am Jesse Lee Peterson. Thank you so much for being with me. You can get involved by calling 888-775-3773. 888-77-JESSE. Larry Pratt will be here at the top of the second hour today. We're here 3 hours a day, Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific time, 9 to noon Eastern time, heard around the world by everybody and their mama. I do appreciate it.
Yeah.
Emails and Facebook comments are coming up in the bottom of the second hour. Lots of stuff
amazing
today, folks. Lots of it, and we're going to get right into it. I have with me Karine McCandless. And Karine is an author, entrepreneur, activist, and mother. She wrote the book, The Wild Truth, a book meant to give family context to the famous story about her brother, Chris, called Into the Wild. You remember that movie? Into the Wild? Into the Wild.
Into the Wild.
Yeah. I believe I saw a story about it on 60 Minutes, one of the programs. We're having her on to talk about family issues described in her book. In her book, The Wild Truth. We'll tell you how to get the book here in a minute. Karine, good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on.
Merry Christmas.
You too.
All right. Very interesting book. Help me explain to the audience, those who may not be familiar with the story of Chris McCandless. I know that he disappeared for 2 years, and in his final few months.
Okay, I'm cool with that.
Potential. What will it be able to do that our current military branches don't do?
So really what the Space Force is about, it's about organizing, training, and equipping a cadre of professionals to fight and win wars in space. President Trump has already created the U.S. Space Command, which he has full authority to do under the Goldwater
Space Force is what you call a front force for
maybe
city busters and
this administration,
intercontinental ballistic missiles.
Under President Trump's
city busters are smaller than
we will say that the Space Force is likely the most important thing that he has done, and I'll tell you why. You will say the enemies of the United States. I would say the competitors of the United States, namely China,
call it megaton
space, the American Achilles heel. Well, I will tell you, President Trump
you take out DC, Maryland, and Virginia once. Whoop.
In the way that China has already declared space.
You drop one bomb, they won't have a country.
Yeah, I want you to listen
the
to
country
what
will
some
cease.
Democrats are saying about the Space Force. I think we have some sound on this.
Donald Trump has been obsessed with launching a space.
That's why we ain't had no war.
Future wars in space.
And the only two people we would have war with is China, not Russia.
Action figures you got from your grandma on your birthday.
They got more nuclear arms, but
it's nonsense like Space Force.
Who are we fighting? A bunch of frozen monkeys?
Space Force.
Yeah, I'm telling you that they are so naive to what's actually going on. I know you see a lot of classified information, but to the best extent that you can possible, explain what is actually happening.
We have another nuclear
and why we need to be there and be there now.
There will be no plan.
So those comments.
That's why we got Space Force. You can kiss this planet. Goodbye, bye, 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 bye.
And we absolutely must.
You ain't your mama. Bye, bye.
Here's what we know. There are people watching this broadcast right now. They're watching on DirecTV, Dish Network.
Right.
Some people are going to watch on internet broadband delivered from space. We think
Right, delivered from
we also think about
mass
navigation.
communication.
People flying across the country on
Yeah.
airplanes that use GPS navigation. We talk about people driving across the country using GPS navigation. The way we communicate, the way we navigate, the way we
You have to go to space for all that.
increasing crop yield, reducing water usage, preserving nitrates in the soil, all because of space-based technology. That's going to feed more of the world than ever before. It's an export for the United States of America, but it's not just food. It's how we produce energy in a clean way. It's how we predict weather. It's how we understand climate. It's how we do banking. Every banking transaction in the United States of America is dependent on a timing signal from GPS. If there is no GPS, there is no banking in the United States of America. We are dependent
Because
on space.
we ain't using gold,
Most Americans don't
physical,
understand, but I'll tell you who does.
tangible.
China. And you know who else does? President Trump. And he will not let them
I'm
get
talking
an
about
advantage
fiat
by
currency.
attacking space. And I
Fiat
will tell
currency
you,
is
they're
different.
advancing direct ascent
Regular.
anti-satellite missiles, co-orbital anti-satellite capabilities. The United States of America is dependent on space in a way most Americans don't know, and they might be laughing at it on those late night TV shows, but they are simply ignorant. This is critically important for our nation.
I totally agree with you. Look, Putin was out there talking about hypersonic weaponry, and China on Monday attacked the newly created U.S. Space Force.
So I'm about to say, Phil been a SOFIX.
And security.
They
One of the best signals we have out there.
SOFIX
that
is
what NASA's doing to help lay the foundation to what's going on in space is the right thing, and that Donald Trump is taking a very proactive measure here.
Absolutely.
It's the place where we all buy and sell nuclear arms.
We don't do national security and defense. We do exploration.
All the way to space and back.
But here's what we need.
So
we need to make sure that space is secure. Because we are building an economy in space that's going to produce trillions of dollars. It's already a $400 billion economy for the United States of America. It's growing rapidly. And just like, if you look at President Teddy Roosevelt, he created the Great White Fleet. He created the most powerful navy ever to protect on the seas. President Trump is doing the same thing to protect commerce in space. This is an export for the United
Come on. Oh, that ain't me. That's the live. Trump breaking U.S. Unite. Oh, that's it. See you again. All right, sure. 5 sentences. It's not 5 sentences to death over Jamal. After who?
Give me another shot. You can punch me.
The national news. We ain't gonna start that one.
Okay, you want to pick Brazil. All right. First wave of bad guys, not a problem. Too easy. Just combo after combo after combo. Guys, they can't even hit me once. Here's the big boss guy.
A warm welcome to this hour of news. Well, we begin with breaking news. Saudi Arabia's public prosecutor says 5 people have been sentenced to death and 3 sentenced to 24 years in prison for the murder of Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi. The closed-door trial was held at the criminal court in the capital, Riyadh. The identities of the convicted haven't been released. Khashoggi was murdered in the Saudi consulate in Istanbul last year. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman said he had
Crown Prince or Crown Prince? I can't remember.
Well, Mohammed Azul is live for us at Mohammed. So let's talk first of all about the verdict.
What do we know? He'll be killed by the government.
Is, Jilly, that 5 have been sentenced to death. 3 would get prison sentences. So that is 8, and leaves 3 who had been investigated by the prosecutor and who have since been cleared. And they seem to be the main people in that group that is been suspected of killing Jamal Khashoggi on the 2nd of October 2018 when he walked into the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, but never walked out. They are the former high-profile advisor to the royal family, Saud al-Qahtani, a man considered to be the right-hand man of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, as well as the former Deputy Intelligence Chief.
And they kept saying that he did it.
And then also released after being investigated.
If he did it, you'll never hear. You'll never hear about it.
At
the Prince.
Istanbul Saudi consulate. So those have been released. So the 11, 5 have gotten death sentences, 3 prison sentences, and then the others released. That's what we know so far.
And Mohammed, were we expecting this verdict right now?
They've been that side was ongoing, but it's almost unexpected that it would come at this time. There's been a lot of pressure coming from the international community, particularly the United Nations, which has not only been talking about the need for justice in the Jamal Khashoggi killing, but also putting pressure on the United States and the European Union to act to see that there be justice. There's been also a lot of pressure coming from Turkey with its angry president at one point starting leaking information of what they knew about the murder, and this is a murder that has generated so much global coverage. But you know, there's been a lot of cover up. There's been a lot of the lies coming from Riyadh has been so thin that even Donald Trump, who is a sworn admirer of the Crown Prince, has called it the cover-up, the worst cover-up ever. So there's been a lot of misinformation here and there, and very few expect that this verdict, as it is with the 3 most important men in those 11 who have been put on trial, released, will appease the anger that the killing of that journalist Jamal Khashoggi has caused.
Mohammed, do you think, to your point just there, that with this verdict, it will perhaps present more questions than it answers?
Well, that is how it looks at the moment. And I think the main thing that is going to raise a lot of eyebrows is the release of the men who've been considered to be leading the act of murdering Jamal Khashoggi. We're talking about the former high-profile advisor to the royal family, Qahtani, as well as Al-Assiri, the deputy intelligence chief, and also the consul in Istanbul at the time, because they were seen as the top people within the 15 people who are believed to have been there when Jamal Khashoggi was killed. And now that they've been let off the hook, it might create more anger in some quarters.
They're joining me there live from Ankara. Well, for more, let's talk now to Mehmet Çelik. He joins us now from Istanbul. He's managing editor of the Daily Sabah. That's an English language newspaper. Mehmet, very warm welcome to the program. First of all, your view on this verdict. It seems that what's interesting about it is more those people who haven't been charged than those who have.
You're definitely right. I think the fact that some high-profile names have not been charged, it raises questions on credibility of the trial itself, and whether or not these people were just picked as scapegoats so that there's a seemingly moving forward
scapegoats. Allow them to be the blame.
You know, the results announced today shows that it wasn't anything. It hasn't been anything more than just finding some finding some names to blame.
Pero llegaban disparando yo y de repente iban para un lado y de repente por eso un avión. Yo pensaba que iba a caer el avión o iba a dar vueltas más, pensé yo, pero no, llegó disparando.
Here in the central area of Posala, we head up to the mountains of the so-called Golden Triangle to investigate a recent incident of possible abuse at the hands of Mexico's government as it continues to hunt for Joaquin and Chapo.
Guzman is the world's most wanted drug lord, accused of leading a multi-billion-dollar operation smuggling weed, heroin, and methamphetamine into the United States and around the world. In July, El Chapo used an elaborate tunnel to escape from the federal prison in central Mexico. Authorities and media reported that the drug lord was flown back to this part of the country.
Y'all know when you I'm trying to get it, something just. So that means, y'all, if my check that I'm gonna get this week from all the work I did last week, it's gonna be off because this was the last load from last week. That's how our stuff work all the time.
Oh, yeah, truckers.
Have you ever been denied Social Security disability? Did you file an appeal only to be denied again? Would you like representation for no cost out of pocket unless your case is won?
Was moved back to this part of the country, called Golden Triangle, the three-state area of Sinaloa, Chihuahua, and New York. The region is where the Sinaloa grows marijuana and coffee for its drug empire. This was obviously a huge embarrassment for the country and its chief anti-Chapo ally, the United States. And Mexico's government says it is determined.
El Chapo.
In early October,
Nothing to be said. Like I said, we revere him in our country. He's revered.
Been a game-changing moment. Instead, El Chapo managed.
He's revered. He's considered a saint.
Locals in the territory that he controls. But how he actually did so remains a mystery. The government statement said that El Chapo was injured and had escaped, but did not explain how that information. In Mexico's drug war, officials falsifying evidence or lying to the public. This time, critics said, seems no. After
El Chapo got the judges in his pocket.
Mountains.
It's funny because I know what.
Across state lines and teams. They said they had come under attack from the Mexican Navy
as the 13th.
But did the locals help them? Did any of them fire weapons against the authorities as the government had fired? Locals said no. They told reporters they didn't know who Chapo was, never seen him, and that they had no idea why authorities. A month later, many of these campesinos remain in Costa.
Amazing.
One of these displaced ranchers is 31-year-old Gonzalo Peña. He and his family are living with his mother-in-law in Costa. He explained to us what happened.